Biochar is the oldest modified material on the face of the earth. When the plants migrated out of the ocean 600 million years ago, we started having lightning strikes and burning excess biomass, and it deposited inefficiently 1 to 2% of that as char in the soil. And that created an evolutionary food chain which created microbes being able to take advantage of chars and working with plants, and the mycorrhizal relationships evolved, and that's what created a lot of our productivity. That's why the world is covered with plants. So we need to go back to that advantage instead of the one we're using, which is, better living through Monsanto. Let's go in there, nuke the soil, nail it with Roundup, and micromanage our biological systems. Mother Nature put together a great system, and we've decided to screw it up. We got to back off. Mother Nature, the rock will survive very nicely. Been there, done that. 5 mass extinctions so far. We are orchestrating the biggest and the best, unless we decide to change directions. Activated carbon is well known as it purifies air and it purifies water. Properly made biochars, and I use that word with real hesitation because I see a lot of biochars and they're not great shakes, but done correctly, biochar has 1/3 the decontaminating power of the finest activated carbons. We're talking about creating a material that is going to start cleaning up the world's water. Well, we're approaching a tipping point. This is a point at which we will convert the environment of the world into one that is much more hostile and less capable of supporting populations. Are we at that tipping point? We don't know. But we know from all the models that we're not very far away from it. I call this the Thelma and Louise model. Your options are severely diminished after you drive off the cliff. We are currently racing towards the cliff. We have a large portion of us saying, it's difficult to say whether the cliff will get to us at any time, predictably. And maybe technology will improve the brakes on the car I'm driving to the point that I'll be able to stop in the last inch. Of the 7 billion people on the face of this earth, over half of them live at the whims of the weather that's rolling through. They cannot decide to bring in irrigation water, to grow crops, to have them taken to their plates. They are at the mercy. When they have a crop failure, people die. We are going to be orchestrating crop failures arbitrarily. This is climate chaos. This is climate disruption. Global warming is a massively too benign term. You say, well, that's cool. We're not going to be as cold. You're right, you're not going to be as cold, because a lot of people are going to be dead. I actually spent a lot of time trying to come up with a unit for the impact we're going to have. What's a unit of mass loss of life? And the one I came up with, which was politically incorrect, is the Stalin. Stalin represents about 10 million arbitrarily unjustified deaths. Now we're going to lose 1 billion to 3 billion people in this little exercise. So that leaves us with 100 to 300 Stalins to hand out for decisions. So Bush's decision not to join the Kyoto protocols is probably good for a good 50 Stalins right there. We're essentially orchestrating desperation in this climate sense. Now, I would love biochar to suddenly become the alternative. I call it the Gandhi model. Just don't play their game. Gandhi got the Indians to stop playing the English game. We need people just to walk away from this sort of madness and start, just like composting, start converting the excess biomass around them into char that sequesters carbon, that makes these natural cycles. You gotta understand, we're living the only 3 centuries that the human race will ever have this exploitable, one-time death pill called fossil fuels. 1/1,000,000th of the Earth's weight is its atmosphere. It's a thin line around the edge. Unfortunately, it's the 1/1,000,000th that every living species depends on. I got to debate Rachel Smolker from Biofuel Watch. I mean, you want to talk about pretzel logic. I mean, these people really are making up this stuff when it comes to their problems with, biochar. And they're doing it because they can get some traction. They're getting great mileage, and they're painting us with a very terrible brush. She thinks this is great sport. She may get a Stalin out of the deal. So we've got all these zones where we've managed to kill all the microbes off. Mother Nature's way of purifying water with our toxicity. So mine reclamation, these kinds of things, it's really a great combination. I quite often design systems where we put in biochar as an absorbent to take away the toxicity, and then it rolls right over and becomes the biochar that's synergistic with the microbes. So it's a sweet deal. It'll really bail you out. I mean, biochar is burnt toast. It is the universal antidote for poison. We have great stories about biochar where we put it in and it sucks up all the pesticides and it sucks up all the nasties in the soil. We gave them a couple tons of biochar and they milled it into the soil and threw in their fertilizer and grass, and now grass is high. But I mean, that's the kind of turn it around in one season, one growth cycle. They took away the toxicity and life came back. Life will take over. You give life a toehold, look out. It's gonna do what it needs to do.